Welcome back. Now just moments before the roll-off. There is the pole sitter, Juan Pablo Montoya. Like scrub dry weather tires. We're hearing a report that rain is expected. No news there, but it's the timing we're concerned about within 1 hour.
Just get them nicely into the race. All the tires all warmed up and the track all got nice and rubber down, a bit of oil and the rain. Perfect.
Look at the photographers at the back along with the crew. A very confined space on the longest track in Formula One. Man, giving it plenty of revs before the roll-off.
Minimal wheel spin there, but
as the cars make their way off on their formation lap, let's check out the Lexus starting grid. Juan Montoya, his second career Formula One pole. He and teammate Ralf Schumacher timed their change from wet to dry rubber perfectly, giving the Williams team its second sweep of the front row this season.
In third spot, Schumacher again denied the pole position here. Michael Schumacher, that is, left his dry tyre run 1 lap too late and trails Montoya by 2.6 seconds, but he's still confident that he will win. Alongside him, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, very pleased, timed his dry run just exactly perfectly. Best qualifying since Melbourne this year and then Monaco last year before that.
Back on row 3, Rubens Barrichello in the second Ferrari, battling with David Coulthard and Ralf Schumacher for second in the Drivers' Championship. He'll start alongside Jacques Villeneuve, the Canadian's best qualifying performance of the year for BAR.
In seventh spot, one of his worst qualifying positions is Mika Hakkinen. Team McLaren completely messed up their qualifying for everything, got it all wrong. Alongside him, Giancarlo Fisichella, best grid by far this year, and he's quick all weekend.
If you don't believe McLaren got it wrong, just ask David Coulthard. Back in 9th, he was furious with the team afterward. His worst qualifying performance of the year. Alongside him in the 10th spot, Pedro de la Rosa in the Jaguar.
In 11th, Olivier Panis had a pretty mixed fortunes this weekend. Quicker than Villeneuve all day Friday, but electrical gremlins let him down in qualifying, and he wasn't all that quick this morning. Alongside him, Kimi Räikkönen, who suffered from transmission problems all day long and stopped on his last run. Third fastest this morning, though.
Back on row 7, Jean Alesi, the Frenchman, got caught out on intermediate rubber when he needed dry in the closing moments of qualifying. He'll start his Jordan alongside Nick Heidfeld, who had gearbox woes, parked his Sauber at Stavolo, which led to a lot of confusion at the end of qualifying.
15th spot, Jenson Butler's dismal year continues. Third on the grid last year, chose the wrong tyres and slowed his teammate all weekend.
Back
alongside him is Jarno Trulli, very unhappy, got everything all wrong on their tyre choice and their time.
I beg your pardon, David. Back on row 9 will be Eddie Irvine, who also was caught out on intermediate rubber late in qualifying. He'll be next to Luciano Burti, who complained of low front end grip in his Prost.
In 19th spot, Jos Verstappen, he got blocked by Evan on his first quick run and then missed his flag by 3 seconds, and he was slow this morning. Alongside him, Fernando Alonso had a massive crash this morning. He's going to be out in the spare car today.
And on the 11th and final row, Enrique Bernoldi in the Arrows and Tarso Marquez in the European Minardi. The last 2 rows, those 4 drivers were all outside the 107% rule in qualifying, but because of the wet-dry situation and other extenuating circumstances, they were allowed to take their places on the starting grid. You're on board the Prost of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. A very difficult start here at Spa with this downhill slope to the hairpin at La Source, and the cars will get up to tremendous speed and then immediately jump on the brakes for the slowest turn on the track.
I think they have the grid too far back towards that last left-hand sweep because they get up far too much speed before they get to the source, which is such a tight corner.
Get on the volume. Here come the lights. Frentzen is stalled on the right-hand line of cars.
4th place. There he is right there on board Frentzen now in the Prost. He'll have to go to the back.
Yellow lights.
What an incredible disappointment for Prost.
But lucky he got his hands up in time.
Luckily he got his hands up and everybody saw it.
Incredibly tense.
So Frentzen will now have to go to the back. We'll do it all over again, and you see smoke further back. Now recall what happened to Juan Pablo Montoya earlier this year when he had a long pit stop. The car overheated. I believe it was at Hockenheim, and his race ended. These cars, the engines, I should say, are very, very sensitive to sitting there stationary.
And he had his engine on for quite a while before they took off on that warm-up lap, too.
Yeah.
So the crews immediately swarm out onto the racetrack. They'll try to get the engines cooled down. Here's a look at Heinz-Harald Frentzen waving his hands to indicate he had lost the fire.
Alan Prost's lips have been read in the pit, and he said impossible. And I'm sure he's just, I can't, because they were really counting on a good run here today, because they have some very delicate sponsorship negotiations in process at the moment, so he really wanted a good run.
You see how difficult it is for the crews to get onto the starting grid at Spa. The way that the pits are organised is there's only a very small little section there. It's like ants crawling out through the woodwork there, but also there's a second exit further on down the pit lane. You can see the Williams mechanics pouring back down there, but they have to climb over the arm car on a set of steps, lugging all the starters, lugging all the jacks and whatever. It's an awful circuit to get to it for the working on the grid.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? You not only have to get people out there, you have to get equipment out there.
Meantime, the rain just gets that much closer.
Oh, Frentzen, his qualifying performance now thoroughly ruined. And we'll do it all again. So we'll take a quick break while they all decide what to do down on the grid. Of course, these folks have no idea. We'll be right back. Welcome back live to the Belgian Grand Prix, round 14 of 17 of the World Championship for 2001. I'm Bob Barsha with Sam Posey, David Hobbs, Steve Matchett, Peter Windsor on site. We have yet to roll off for the second time. You see Michael Schumacher sitting there. We had a no start when Heinz-Harald Frentzen lost the fire in his Prost. We're a little over a minute away from our second roll off for a complete formation lap and then a reform on the grid. While we have a moment, here's a program note. Next Saturday here on Speed Vision, we'll have live coverage of the Trans Am Series for the BF Goodrich Tires Cup from Mazda Raceway at Laguna Seca, one of the greatest road courses in America. Paul Gentilozzi has the points lead. He won the last race at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Check out Speed Vision Saturday, September 8th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Trans Am Racing live from Monterey, California. There is our pole sitter, Juan Pablo Montoya, as the mechanics prepare him for another formation lap.
You just saw there the mechanic pull the yellow flap out from the airbox inlet. The reason for that is what happens when the cars are sitting there, the fuel vapor is so heavy it starts to pour back out of the airbox and fall down into the cockpit, giving the drivers all sort of breathing problems. So to get around that, the teams fit little air ventilation fans into the airbox to keep air flowing through into the trumpets to stop that sort of vapor formation coming back out and giving the breathing problems to the drivers. Something that used to bother Gerhard Berger an awful lot. You remember he was driving for Benetton, all sorts of breathing problems.
Did he really?
Of course, the fuels were interesting brews back then as well. There you see the clock to the next roll-off. Less than half a minute to go now.
All of this, the last thing that Montoya wants to be
Boy, I tell you,
on.
can you believe that?
Get the pole position, you want everything to just go smoothly, no hassles.
Of course, the last thing to be unplugged is the computer.
Because everybody the same. I mean, these aborted starts are just tremendously pressure on it.
Notice the problems. Montoya now, we hear, may have stalled. Incredible.
Heinz-Harald Frentzen is still parked in his spot. We'll have to see if they leg up. Now Montoya.
Right. The exact thing we were just...
God, can you believe it?
Unbelievable.
Now Frentzen rolled off. I guess he's going to work his way to the back of the pack on the lap. But Montoya has to get started.
Oh, that is just... Oh, you wouldn't read about it, would you? As Denny Hulme would say.
Well, so our script takes another dramatic twist.
Whew. Doesn't it ever?
Up over Radillon. This is the Kemmel straightaway, and look at the speed of these cars on this uphill straight.
Old Pablo Montoya, I tell you what, his racing luck is pretty poor on the scale.
Unbelievable.
And I mean, you need luck. You've got to be one of those lucky guys that's blessed. Senna was blessed with it, Prost and Schumacher.
I think it's too early to make that conclusion, though. It's just been a bad half a year. He was very fortunate in his kart racing.
You just saw Montoya underway at last. Now this is...
That's the Rivage from the helicopter. A terrific little corner, but very, very tricky.
The rest of the field down below, making their way through Fagne, headed towards Stavolo.
Hey, we have good news. Derek Hill, racing in Formula 3000 over this same circuit yesterday, finished a terrific night. Really promising. I talked to his dad, who, by the way, celebrates his 40th anniversary of his victory here en route to his world championship Chip, and he said Derek was just thrilled with the result. He finished closer to the leader than he had all season. I think if he can stay with it another year, we're going to see some big results from him.
Really great race track to be that far up.
To have done well on it. Yeah.
Justin Wilson became the first British driver ever to clinch the International Formula 3000 Championship. He did it with one race to go at Monza, and it happened when his chief rival, Mark Webber, the Australian, flew off the road at Radillon, the top of the Eau Rouge Hill, and clouded the barriers. It was a frightening accident. He bruised his ankle, but managed to walk away.
Limp away.
Be carried away.
Yeah.
He was actually carried away in the end, but they say that it's not broken, but it looked pretty nasty at the time, and it was a tremendous crash.
As the field making its way through the bus stop chicane, you'll notice cones on the right-hand side of your screen. They weren't there for Friday practice, but there was some concern that the drivers were using too much of the curb, so they put those cones out there to warn the drivers off. Now, Ralf Schumacher on the right of your screen becomes the point man, while on the left, Michael Schumacher has a clear shot at the first turn at La Source.
So 2 of the first 4 qualifiers are now gone from the grid, or at the back.
Now we're going to see Ralph squeeze his brother Michael, like Michael squeezed him at the Nürburgring earlier on this year in the European Grand Prix.
And what will Jacques Villeneuve, who now has an empty piece of track in front of him till you get up to Ralf Schumacher, do?
The chemistry has changed completely.
Here come the lights again. Great start for Ralf Schumacher. Giancarlo Fisichella in the blue Benetton to the right, making up all kinds of room. Rubens Barrichello slots in behind Michael Schumacher. Everyone cleanly through La Source the first time. Now the downhill plunge to Eau Rouge.
Switch from the Williams there as he took the compression going into Eau Rouge, and I tell you, that is a
Boy,
fine
look at the
corner.
way that...
Michael Schumacher all over his brother.
Good Lord, I wouldn't have believed that was possible.
New leader.
Schumacher must be on a 2-stop strategy, Michael, surely, to be able to out-drag that BMW power up that hill.
Well, we talked about this on Friday during our practice show, as well as during qualifying. The Ferrari seems to be carrying a lot less wing than everyone else. They were faster in a straight line than the BMW-powered Williams cars all weekend.
That's true, but Ralph did stumble going up that hill, and if you lose even a fraction, you can be gobbled right up. I think it was more down to driver error.
It could be a bit of a lift going through Eau Rouge and Radillon, and you lose so much horsepower going up that long hill.
And even now, look how close at the second Ferrari Barrichello's running to the Williams car. He's getting all over the back end of that already, so that really is beginning to show there's such a difference between these 2 cars at the moment.
There's Barrichello right on Ralf Schumacher's gearbox. Remember, those 2 were battling for second in the World Championship, along with David Coulthard, who started back in 9th.
Ferrari did not look that good in qualifying. They're looking terrific right now.
Here's Mika Häkkinen.
David Coulthard, of course, he was elevated to 7th with the 2 cars dropping out in front of him on the grid there, making the most of it, and now right up with Fisichella, who's actually having a pretty good run.
Fisichella in his 4th year with Benetton, headed for Jordan next year.
Here's the running order as they complete lap 1.
Button up to 9th too, so he must have made a dynamite start.
He did. Both Benettons made
15th
very
to 9th
strong
in 1 lap, not too shabby at all. Oh, look at that corner there. You can see that's where the springs compress, where those marks are on the road, as everybody bottoms out there. And of course, if you spring the car stiff enough to stop it bottoming out there, you run into all sorts of handling problems everywhere else.
Pablo Montoya up to 17th. Here he is on the charge, make that 16th as he goes around one of the arrows on the Kemmel Straight. Now here's where the Colombian has to control a very natural sense of anger at what fate has dealt him thus far in this race.
If, however, rain is coming, there's going to be a tremendous scrambling in the order of things. He's not out of this thing by a long shot.
Oh, no.
And that's the one thing about this racetrack. I mean, you've really got a chance to show your prowess off both as a car and as a driver. And you've got 4.5 miles nearly to do it in, and you can really make up time here.
And of course, let's remember that the more wing that Williams are running will play into their advantage when that rain starts to fall, which I believe it will do. You know, we've got a prediction of rain, and at Spa, I think we can say that's pretty much set in stone. It's going to rain. That extra downforce, and you can see when we have another shot of the Williams chassis, they're actually running a third element along the back of the rear wing. Keep your eyes open for that. Something distinctly that the Ferraris are not running. But of course, Michael is also a very gifted driver in the wet, so you've got to play one off against the other.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's Montoya to the left of your screen in the blue and white Williams BMW.
Is that Jarno Trulli and Eddie Irvine duking it out there? They've got some stiff opposition to get by these two guys.
14th, 15th, and 16th.
Blanchimont, a really quick left-hand sweep.
Still bunched through the bus stop. Look down the inside. No.
Very close battle here, isn't it? In the middle from 9th on.
Rushing past the old garage complex. This was the original start-finish line here at Spa. It's now used for the support series. Mika Hakkinen and Giancarlo Fisichella for 4th.
Amazing resurgence by Benetton and Fisichella to be splitting the McLarens, who at the beginning of the season you would have thought were completely out of reach of Benetton, who was at that point battling it out at the back of the grid with the minorities.
The Benettons are going to be interesting to watch through these last 3 races, all high-speed tracks. The Renault engineers are making guarded comments about the fact that they have found something. Ooh.
There goes Coulthard
on the dirty line.
Going round the outside of Fisichella into this Pouhon. It's very fast downhill, left-hander. Just goes on and on. I mean, that is the real neck stretcher of all, this corner. Villeneuve now having to go at the back of Fisichella.
Kimi Räikkönen right behind Villeneuve.
There's a pace and an excitement to a lap around this track that you just don't get on other tracks, because a pass can take place pretty much anywhere, and it's driver error is you often see drivers screwing up. The turns are just so hard.
Back on the Stavelot-Francorchamps road.
Räikkönen right up the wing of Villeneuve. Is he going to have a go going to the bus stop? It looks like he's threatening to.
Ready. Down the inside. Yep.
Yes. Great move there by Räikkönen, and a pretty cool head by Villeneuve too to let him go like that.
I mentioned earlier, Räikkönen making his first visit to Spa since he drove it in a Formula Renault car with about 125 horsepower. Now he has close to 900 under his right foot. Once again, he's not phased at all. Look at the aggression in David Coulthard's driving.
This is a great demonstration. Look how dirty the track is with all the dust that blows around here. As soon as you get off the racing line there, and the downforce effect of the car brings all that out. Even though the track's fairly wide at that point, Bushy, will have to stop on that racing line.
Yeah, I mean, it's very dusty just off line there.
Last lap, Michael Schumacher nearly 2 full seconds quicker than his brother Ralph and Rubens Barrichello behind him.
You could see the guys struggling for control at Eau Rouge. That was spectacular, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
2 of the 3 cars I was looking at were...
And I think Montoya's got around Eddie Irvine, as has Jarno Trulli. So Eddie Irvine's gone to the back of that little group. But here you see Barrichello, who, having caught up rapidly to Ralf Schumacher, suddenly seems to have evened out very much that race. Just a few feet back and don't seem to be able to get much closer.
Our teammates Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard are now 4th and 5th. It'll be interesting to see how that battle shakes down. Whether the team gets behind Coulthard's effort to come forward and consolidate 2nd place in the Drivers' World Championship. We'll take a quick break and be right back. Welcome back live to the Belgian Grand Prix. The race has been neutralized on lap 4. The Prost of Luciano Berti is there in the tire walls, and among those trying to help get the tire walls off the car is Eddie Irvine. You see him in green at the front of the car, helping to direct the crews. A huge hit for Luciano Berti, who made contact with Eddie Irvine on the high-speed run down toward Blanchimont. They didn't quite get to that corner. When the 2 cars came together, the Jaguar took the front wing off the Prost, so Berti had no front end, couldn't get the car turned, and pretty much speared right across the gravel track into the tire wall.
Irvine's desperately trying to signal to the marshals to pull the car back out. They're trying to pull the tires back over the chassis. Irvine's trying to get them to pull the chassis back out of the tire barrier.
And this is pretty frantic activity. tremendous hit for the young Brazilian.
He got right through both of the tire walls.
There's a lot
there.
of tires there,
and remember,
too.
Bertie was involved in that hideous crash at the start at Hockenheim.
And now I think the marshals have actually got the tow rope out the back of that truck, and I think they're going to try and put the tow rope around the back of the chassis and pull it back up. It's obviously jammed tight in there. Here you go, you can see the line now being drawn taut.
We'll show you what happened in a moment. There's the Prost being pulled out of the tire wall. It went in nose first.
I'm very nervous about Eddie Irvine's reaction to this, because he wouldn't be so desperate if he didn't see something he didn't like about what's going on.
As the ambulance arriving, the doctors were already there. I believe that's Dr. Sid Watkins' safety car there, the silver Mercedes that just rolled up.
And obviously he is running out of the car. That's him right there going. That's Sid.
Now here's another look. Irvine on the left, Bertie on the right. The Prost gets pushed over, left side wheels in
Eddie
the dirt.
Irvine runs him right onto the grass, takes that front wing off, which means now doing nearly 200. He has no downforce on the front at all. So when he hits that tire wall, he's going pretty close to 180, 185 miles an hour.
Way too fast.
Ooh.
There's Alain Prost at the center of the picture.
They would know, of course, whether they have any word by radio from Bertie. And from the look of it, I don't think they do.
Recall that Eddie Irvine and Luciano Berti were teammates at Jaguar to begin the season, before Berti moved over to Prost.
Well, a pretty somber group in the pit there while they wait to hear.
This has not been the day for Prost.
No, it sure hasn't.
A couple of cars have visited the pits. Another look. It's from Belgian TV.
And as David Riley points out, that's the problem. You take the front downforce off the car, you have absolutely no steering input at all, because the car starts to lift up.
The front wheel looked like it was deranged as well.
Deranged, it was flapping around.
The front suspension was gone and the wing was gone. So he had absolutely no input at all.
And you can see where the Jaguar came to rest.
The barriers are not designed at that point to take a head-on impact.
Now, this is not good news. They're going to red flag the race, presumably to get more safety equipment out there. Weekend for Alain Prost.
From bad to worse for Prost.
After so much joy at the performance of Heinz-Harald Frentzen getting to fourth in qualifying, a team desperately in need of extra budget.
I hate to say it, but Spa appears to have extracted a toll again. This is an incredibly dangerous track, echoing way back into the 60s. A terrible year when Stacy and Bristow were both killed at the same time. Let's hope that this is not.
That was Jimmy Clark's first race here. He never liked it after that, even in spite of the fact he won here. What, 4 times or 5 times?
Yeah, 4 consecutive times, as did Senna.
It's a very frustrating time for the team, of course, because all they can do is watch and wait. They're seeing all the same information that we're getting, of course,
right.
And very anxious, awful moments.
It's become something of a standard procedure now to raise tarps and blankets around the scene of an accident to keep prying photographers away.
Well, when you think how strong these cars are, though.
There's Ralph Schumacher talking to his brother, or is he speaking with Rubens Barrichello? No, it is Michael he's speaking to.
How did you pass me so decisively, Michael? Don't do that.
This looks like it might be an extended red flag as the drivers get out.
There's Eddie Irvine's car on the hook in the background there. can see in the foreground of one of the houses. There used to be no guardrails at all, David, in your day of driving around this place. The woods came right to the edge of the road.
And they started at Blanchimont where that happened, of course. In the old days, the guardrail, what there was right at the edge of the road. That drop, they've extended it.
Well, where is Kimi
Raikkonen coming from?
Running down the racetrack. He's running toward the bus stop chicane. He was nowhere in sight when the accident took place, although he may have run over debris or something. There you see the Jaguar being lifted away in the background. They work on Luciano Berti. Saw Jean Todt speaking with his drivers. There's Mika Häkkinen on the left and David Coulthard. Be sure they're discussing the accident.
It's a very strange feeling for a driver when the race is stopped. You're out of the car. You don't have the full information. You fear.
Exactly my point. I wonder what a savvy team manager like Jean Todt says to his drivers when he comes up and they're sharing information about a savage accident.
Fortunately, as Woody Allen once said, there's nothing like the power of distraction. And when the time comes to get back in the car, you're so busy with what you're doing that pretty much everything that's gone before gets pushed back out of your mind.
Another look at the contact. At this point, Luciano Berti is a passenger.
There you can see that.
Yeah.
Errant right front wheel. Yeah, there seemed to be suspension damage to that.
The irony of the fact that they were teammates, the fact that Berti was involved with that terrible crash just a month ago at Hockenheim.
Michael told me once that when he realized he was going to have an accident at Adelaide a few years ago, he gets himself into the mind frame. You get to the point where you just have to let go of the car and relax, completely relax all your muscles, let go of the steering wheel and pull your arms away from it, and know that you've got to just relax as much of the body as you can before the impact into the tires.
Good. There seems to be some energy from Prost. Word must be coming back now of Bertie's condition.
I think that was Heinz-Harald Frentzen just speaking with Michael Schumacher. Red flag comes on lap 5 with Michael Schumacher leading Rubens Barrichello, Mika Häkkinen, Ralf Schumacher, David Coulthard, Giancarlo Fisichella, Kimi Raikkonen, Jacques Villeneuve, Jean Alesi, and Jenson Button, the top 10. Appears they're getting ready to move Luciano Berti.
I want to hear some good news.
Don't seem to be hearing anything much, do we? And I guess the drivers on the grid are in the same position that we are. No one divulging much information yet.
Well, while we have no information, we'll take this opportunity to get a commercial break in. We'll keep monitoring the situation and tell you what we can learn on the other side. We'll be back live to the Belgian Grand Prix.
Speed Vision's coverage of Formula One is sponsored by Toyota. More choices, better selection. Experience Toyota today. And by Tag Heuer, the official timekeeper of the Formula One Grand Prix.
Back live at the Belgian Grand Prix, there is Eddie Irvine standing with hands on hips. He immediately ran to the scene of the wreck in which Luciano Berti speared into the tire wall at virtually unabated speed on one of the fastest parts of the Spa-Francorchamps racetrack. Irvine has not left the scene. And there you see the shell of the car. Berti has been taken from it and placed in an ambulance. 26-year-old Brazilian.
He was a relatively late starter.
The front of the car looks remarkably undamaged. So let's just hope nothing really unpleasant happened, like that wheel that we see being put in the car now.
Car looks great.
Came over, so the front of the car looks great. So the tyre wall certainly did its job there, but of course it sheared off the complete front suspension, and let's hope that something like that didn't happen, that the wheel in folding over hit him on the head or something, which is what could have happened, or even some of the tyres and the tyre barrier themselves.
He first began in the sport when he was 15 back in Sao Paulo. He was a late starter.
The wheel tether regulations are designed in such a way that even if the wheel comes off, now let's assume that the tethers have worked as they should have done, but if the suspension breaks away, the tethers are designed to be short enough that the wheel shouldn't be able to swing back in an arc to strike the driver. That's really the essence of the tether itself, but you can see there's an awful lot of broken tether wire around. It could well be that the tyre that we're seeing there has just been put on there to shift it out of the way, not that it's in fact still attached to that chassis in a way.
Of course, that all raises the ugly memories of the accident in 1994 that took Ayrton Senna. Now, take this for what it's worth, but the word we're getting from the pit lane from cross team personnel is that they are being told that Berti is not badly hurt, but I say that with all sorts of grains of salt applied. That is very unofficial, although it is coming from cross team personnel in the pit lane.
But when you look at the car, unless it's some sort of fluke, flying wheel, flying tire,
the monocoque is relatively intact.
Is very intact.
Now, while they work on repairing the tire wall at that very quick part of the racetrack, the pit lane has been closed, which means a restart is less than 15 minutes away. Now, here's another update as Bernie Ecclestone in the white shirt speaks with Craig Pollock, the team principal at BA Honda, and on the other side, Flavio Briatore, who runs the Benetton team. We have an update that Luciano Berti is conscious in the ambulance. That comes from race control in Belgium, and that is very good news. He is conscious, no word about any injuries.
You know, the interesting connection with Eddie Irvine goes back to last year, because it was when Eddie Irvine missed that race that Luciano Berti got his first chance in Formula One. He stepped up from reserve driver role. So those two have been tied together for some time.
It's funny how things work sometimes. Now you see the cars on the grid are being worked on. That's allowable under Rule 156, which applies in this case, a race that is more than 2 full laps old, but less than full distance. The grid race order will be that on the racetrack 2 laps prior to the lap on which the red flag came out. In this case, that would be lap 3.
You saw how grave Rubens Barrichello looked when receiving the news of the accident. He and Berti have been very close throughout Berti's career, and he's shepherded and mentored him quite a bit.
Well, the tire barrier, certainly from the look of the front of that,
look at that car. It looks terrific.
Certainly did the job that they were supposed to do.
Of course, the suspension shearing away helps dissipate energy and slows the car's deceleration, if you will, which scientists are appearing to focus on now as the cause of some of the recent fatalities we've seen, particularly in stock car racing, is this instantaneous heavy G-loading. Efforts are being made now to find ways to slow the slowing down of a car, if you will, in an accident, in order to allow those G-forces to be applied over a longer period of time. We're talking fractions of a second, of course.
Well, of course, street cars now all have those crushable front structures, which really only collapse maybe a foot in a very extreme case. But just by slowing the accident down by that extra foot makes an incredible difference to G-load on the driver.
Jarno Trulli, Michael Schumacher climbed in. Trulli appears to be in no rush to get back in the race car. No spare cars will be allowed. All of the cars that made the original start can restart, and the cars, as I mentioned earlier, can be worked on, as you see.
Well, we know that the chassis and the nose structures are crash tested at something like 36 miles an hour. Now, obviously, that shunt that we've just seen by Berti was way in excess of 36 miles an hour
more. Yeah.
Exactly, but the point I want to get onto is that the crash structure of the nose is designed to concertina, to dissipate a lot of that energy. And at 36 odd miles an hour, that nose would have been about 12 inches shorter, if you just described on the road car. You can see that that wasn't the case on Berti's car, and I'm guessing that a lot of that energy was dissipated by running into the tyres. That would have slowed the car down, and probably braking and pulling the suspension back as well as helped. So again, I think the chassis itself has done a remarkable job.
Of course, stopping the chassis and stopping the driver are two different things. Now, here's some more information, and it's positive. Down in the pit lane, Nicky Lauda just reported that Eddie Irvine came back and told him that Luciano Berti was conscious on the scene. And that, too, is good news. A moment ago, you saw the medical center here at the track. If they take Bertie there, I'm taking that as a positive sign. If they're not immediately airlifting him out of here, that could be a good thing as well. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, and we'll get you all the information we have when we have it. Mika Hakkinen climbs in preparation for a restart here in Belgium.
Welcome back to Speed Vision's coverage of the Belgian Grand Prix, which has been stopped after just a few laps due to the accident to Luciano Berti, who was involved with an incident with Eddie Irvine. Berti nosed headfirst into the guardrail and obviously has been injured to some extent. The reports are all very encouraging that, Steve, that he's conscious. We saw him taken out in the ambulance. They might send him to Liège, which is a nearby city with full medical facilities.
Well, at the moment, news does seem to be good, which is great. There you can just see the marshals removing the head restraint from the chassis, and that would have been removed by Sid Watkins when the seat is removed. The cars are now designed with a removable seat so that the driver doesn't have to be extracted from the car separately to the seat. That's in case of any back or neck injuries, of course. And there we see the Supremo, Bernie, just going around giving encouraging words, I hope, to all the other drivers.
We make it about 7 minutes now to the restart, if our sums are right. There's Bernie now. I think there's every reason from the body language as he goes around talking to people to be encouraged. Luciano Berti. Obviously, the car was very strong looking as we saw it finally when they took the various sheets away so that we could get a good look at it. But it has not been a good day for Alain Prost's team. You see Heinz-Harald Frentzen here, who was gridded in 4th position. He was unable to take the first start, had to move to the back of the pack.
Sam, as you just saw Bernie Ecclestone leaning into Ralf Schumacher's cockpit. I'm sure he's telling him what the press has just been told in the media room, that Luciano Berti is in fact conscious as the doctors work on him. And Ralf Schumacher gave him a bit of a nod and a thumbs up, and I hope that's all continued good news.
Well, certainly well, it's foolish to speculate. That's the Eau Rouge, the daunting turn there. And this is, of course, one incredible racetrack, which once again proven to be very, very dangerous. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back live to the Belgian Grand Prix. Ralf Schumacher at the head of the line of cars, now to your right, could not get off the line as we continue to have problems rolling. There was also an Arrows having problems at the back.
It's not that he can't get off the line, it's got the front stand underneath the chassis. So I don't know what the situation is there, whether or not the boys have made a mistake, but the stands are still on the car.
The car is lifted off the ground.
After all the seriousness of moment of absurdity.
That, I'm afraid, gentlemen, is absolutely unforgivable by the team of mechanics.
Can you imagine the boardroom tomorrow morning in Germany, BMW?
The pictures of that car sitting with its wheels in the air will be headlined all over Europe.
Now let's get you caught up on what has happened as Ralf Schumacher finally gets away, no doubt with a certain word imparting to his mechanics. We had a red flag on lap 5 for a massive crash in which Eddie Irvine's Jaguar collided with Luciano Berti's Prost, ripped the front wing off, and while Irvine spun harmlessly onto the trackside grass, Berti speared off the track over the gravel trap and into the tire wall at tremendous speed. He was pulled out of the tire wall, taken to the hospital. The word we have is that he is conscious and does not appear to be too badly injured in that massive loading. Now the race is reforming. We will have a complete standing restart, but the cars will take up their positions as they were on the racetrack 2 laps before the red flag came out.
Steve, what does this mean to the clutches?
Well, the clutches, we've had one start. I would suggest that modern racing clutches now, they're about 1.2 kilos in weight. Actually, they're about as big as a hamburger now to look at. They'll fit very comfortably in your hand. Something about the size of a Big Mac, I guess. Designed possibly to get 3 racing starts out of them and no more. So it's touch and go. And, of course, all the tolerances start to wear. As soon as you do one start and you start to wear the carbon off, they start to grip in all sorts of unusual ways. And the guys have got to be on top of the game here.
Anybody who's planning a 2-stop strategy might pay the penalty in clutch damage. That might be one start too many.
Well, this race, the department now is falling apart horribly for the Williams BMW team, but really coming to the McLaren team. Look at them there, trying third and fourth now, right
And of course,
up there.
Ferrari.
Now there's Kimi Räikkönen Sauber. Moments ago, we saw him running back to the pits. It appeared that his race is run because he could not get back to the restart in the car in which he started the race.
We're seeing a race with the attrition rate of Hockenheim, which have been the highest so far this year.
Boy, that situation with Ralf Schumacher and the car sitting on the low stand is absolutely incredible.
I've never seen it.
Absolutely incredible. They're a team of dedicated, highly skilled mechanics. You'd think one of them would notice that they haven't got the damn car on the ground.
I know. It defies belief. Can you imagine the scene in the pit now? Who left that jack on there? Not me.
I wonder what Ralph said. I wonder how you describe the effect of the fact that you think the jacks are.
Well, you could easily win the thing.
Now, Schumacher's position on the starting grid is left open.
There are now just there's one car left of the first four, or of the original grid, and it's Michael Schumacher, who was third fastest.
Here come the lights once again. Third attempt to start the Belgian Grand Prix.
Once again, the Benetton surged to the front.
Fisichella and Button.
Into La Source. Fisichella goes into second. One of the McLarens, Mika Hakkinen, very wide. Juan Pablo Montoya forced extremely wide as they went side by side, three abreast into La Source.
And Ralf Schumacher weaving his way through the crowd there.
Nick Heidfeld, front wing damage.
To Heidfeld.
We just saw those cars come together as they tried to exit the source there. 2 or 3 cars collided, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's not more than one car damaged there with the end plates.
So Michael Schumacher with a Benetton Renault behind him, then Rubens Barrichello, and Mika Hakkinen fighting his way up into, did he make third? No, fourth. Jacques Villeneuve off and on.
The Benetton badly lacking power up that hill, but other than that, they're going very well around this racetrack. But the McLaren just kill them going up that hill.
Their traction control system must be awesome.
It must be awesome. Fisichella in second place, leading this trail. Barrichello right behind him and Harkin behind him.
Well, I do know what one system that Benetton have got on their cars is an automatic clutch wear learn system in the software, where the car will automatically compensate for any clutch wear from the previous starts, and that will be programmed into the launch control system. So it could be that launch control software has just aided them enormously there. It seemed like an awful lot of work for electronical engineers have to come up with, but it just made the most blistering start.
Both of them.
Absolutely remarkable.
Saw Nick Heidfeld, a close-up of his damaged front wing. Now Rubens Barrichello badly wants by the Benetton. This was the scene of the accident. All that new tarmac replacing gravel traps on the outside of Blanchimont. This is the chicane. I mentioned earlier the Renault engineers feel like they are finally on terms with this radical 111-degree V10 engine. And the head of Renault, Patrick Faure, came out and said, hey, we simply missed the target. We thought it was going to be a lot easier to return to Formula One after all the triumphs of past years.
He said we've been away for 3 years, and even they couldn't believe how technology had changed in that 3 years.
Goalposts had completely moved. And now, no, this would be Heidfeld finally coming to a stop.
Oh.
Front wing has come completely
jammed
loose.
Up under the car. Look at that.
So Peter Sauber's day is over.
Wow. Fisichella hanging on there to the Ferrari up that long hill. Here's the oh my God.
Battle of the Williams BMWs.
This is all we need now. These two to take each other out.
This is at Lecombe. Well, the Williams mechanics may be wondering what was going on.
BMW Williams, who you would expect this shot to be showing in first and second places, instead are mired at the back of the pack.
Exactly.
Right now.
They swept the front row in qualifying, and here they are battling around the back.
Battling for 16th and 17th at the moment.
Well, this is a remarkable turnaround.
Hanging on. I can't believe it.
I expected Michael to blast it up the Kemmel straight there and immediately overtaken the Renault Benetton, but absolutely no way.
Ruben.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
And there's Juan Pablo Montoya.
Oh, no.
with the kind of engine problem that we thought might occur because of the long delays while he ran his engine.
Well, this is the second time after Hockenheim. If it is in fact overheating, that would appear to be a chink in the BMW's armor.
Here it starts to go. Smoke coming out. Old Ralphie Schumacher moving out of the way there.
Let me out of
what's
here.
going to happen.
Montoya sensed it too, didn't he? He moved it right out of the line.
Well, both of those BMW engines have been through the same heat cycle, so how much confidence does that put in the other engine?
And so the Williams is pulled back to be parked right next to Nick Heidfeld's Sauber.
And look at this. Out of that La Source, Fisichella's pulled out quite a lead, and through Eau Rouge and Radion, he hardly loses any of it. Pedro de la Rosa in. Bit of a, looks like he's out too.
Yeah, a bit of a pedestrian pit stop.
Yeah.
Peter Windsor made the point in the pre-race show there that Fisichella is a great racer. And boy, is he showing that right now.
Didn't he ever? Oh, what a terrible day for Jaguar again. Qualified miserably. Messed up their qualifying. Didn't go onto the right tires. Niki Lauda took the blame for that. I mean, look at Ralph here having a job getting around Olivier Panis and one of the arrows.
Barrichello just all over the back of him.
Now, of course, we've got the battle here for second place in the World Championship. We've got Rubens Barrichello, Mika Hakkinen moves out of it, and then David Coulthard right behind him. So these are very important points for Barrichello and Coulthard. And, of course, for Ralf Schumacher, who effectively is now out of this deal.
Now just watch the performance of the Benetton Renaults up the outside.
Staggering. And
What happens?
Button had more speed there.
Looking for, there's Montoya. Oh, three. Looks like Heidfeld and one of the Jaguars. De La Rosa's Jaguar, and you see Ralf Schumacher able to pass his teammate.
Rose Heidfeld loses wing in that.
I think it was in that moment.
Yeah.
Terrible move by Heidfeld.
He moved
Suddenly
over and collided with
to
De La
his
Rosa.
left.
Heidfeld, De La Rosa, and Montoya got forced wide. Schumacher got under him, so that pass we saw moments ago on Kemmel was Juan Pablo Montoya getting back around his teammate before his engine leak.
Boy, those BMW engines are really being able to kick out the horsepower, but they've got that sort of reliability foible. If they get into the wrong heat cycle, they don't last for about 5 minutes.
Now starting to get a bit frustrated, I imagine.
And that's only one weakness. The car apparently won't run when its wheels are in the air either, Steve. What's wrong with this team?
Those sorts of things happen occasionally in Formula One. I remember years ago, I think it was Martin Brundle or someone was driving along and heard a rattling around. A wrench had been left in the cockpit and was rattling around his feet.
Ball with French. Let's listen.
After we bragged on timing and scoring earlier, the system is down at the moment, adding even further to this problematic Belgian Grand Prix. Saw cars going up towards Radion. Good look there at the FIA curbing. I'm not sure exactly why the Belgian director thinks that's appropriate at this point, but there's the current order. We'll be back. Welcome back live to the Belgian Grand Prix. I'm Bob Varsha with Steve Matchett, David Hobbs, and Sam Posey. Glad to have you with us on what has been a remarkable day with an aborted first attempt to start this race, then a massive crash involving Luciano Berti, who is being taken care of by the medics right now. That brought out a red flag. The gap is 18 seconds from race leader Michael Schumacher to that man in the blue Benetton Renault, Giancarlo Fisichella, who got a great start on the third trip under the lights in this race. There's Rubens Barrichello, who runs in 3rd place. Now, in the past, an interrupted Formula One race would be run in 2 parts, with the eventual finish determined on cumulative time over those 2 parts. But that's no longer the case. We restart the race, and what you see on the racetrack is what you get at the end.
This is incredible too. This Arrows is holding up both Olivier Panis and Ralf Schumacher, who's still at the back of this trio and has been ever since this race started. He got up to this group and he cannot make any headway on them.
This is the battle for 10th place, plunging downhill. Now here is Jenson Button being passed by Jacques Villeneuve in the fight over 8th place.
Jenson Button having one of the best days he's had this year. In fact, it was the best qualifying that the team had collectively. Fisichella, of course, qualifying up to 8th. Michael Schumacher now with a huge lead going to the bus stop.
Schumacher, of course, is the only one of the first 4 cars on the grid to have survived all the restart procedures. And, of course, he now has this gigantic lead and is headed possibly for breaking Alain Prost's record of 51 GP victories. He would go ahead with 52 today, and a day where it was black enough for Alain Prost already with the injury to his driver and the failure of his car that qualified so solidly in 4th place to even make the start.
Saw the graphic on the world feed saying 30 laps to go. The race originally scheduled for 44, but it was reduced by the 4 that were run when the red flag comes out. We are now 30 laps to go as Villeneuve in replay takes 8th place from Jenson Button. This is Jarno Trulli in the Jordan Honda pits, and a little late getting the fuel hose out. 8.5 though, not a bad stop.
Bad. It looked a bit sloppy though, didn't it? There's that very tight pit exit. So Jarno Trulli, I think, was just in front of his teammate Jarno Lacey, but obviously that has mixed things up now. The 2 McLarens not being able to make much impression on Rubens Barrichello, and none of them can make any impression on Giancarlo Fisichella.
This is a fraught situation here with these cars being held up, basically blocked.
By Jos Verstappen, who's now up to 10th, having qualified 19th. In fact, he didn't really qualify because of that discrepancy in time, but because of the weather, the stewards allowed the last 4 cars, which included Jos Verstappen, to start.
Remember Jos Verstappen's monumental crash here a few years back.
Jos Verstappen's had some very startling races this year. Malaysia really comes to mind. I mean, he just drove like a man possessed there. And they're really hoping that next year when they get the Cosworth, the same as the Jaguar's got, which is significantly lighter than the engine they have, they're going to be able to ballast the chassis much better, and the whole package is going to improve enormously.
No one's ever doubted the Dutchman's speed. Sometimes his judgment, and he's not always had the best car under him, but he is very quick. As you look at Olivier Panis, currently in the 11th spot, in the meat and the sandwich, if you will, between Verstappen and Ralf Schumacher. Now here comes Mika Häkkinen from 5th place. Now, this is interesting. After that long red flag in which they could have worked on the cars, I guess they did not allow refueling on the grid.
I didn't see any fueling things out there. I didn't see any fueling rigs out there. Maybe it's the one thing he could do. Same pit stop almost exactly as Jarno Trulli.
So Lacey preparing to leave the Jordan pits.
And there comes a BAR. I think that was a Honda coming in, BAR.
Look at the Lacey hustling out the pits.
Olivier Panis has pitted from that battle for 10th.
So we're certainly looking at 2-stop strategies from these men. And remember, the rain that was in the forecast for about an hour from the start, we are right about that point right now.
But it's still not raining.
Still not raining. Still looks very heavy.
Ralf Schumacher
and Ralf
still trying to get around Verstappen. Ralf Schumacher, of course, absolutely fuming, no doubt. Bearing in mind that he should be duking it out with these 2 for at least second. Wow, made it at last.
We'll see if Verstappen can stay with the Williams.
See, the Williams, that extra power.
The answer is no.
Well, it carries so much more downforce, so and it can pull it.
And it's interesting to when we're thinking about Verstappen and the downforce and the level of power coming out of that Asiatech engine, when Jos was talking to Peter and he was talking about Eau Rouge, and he says, well, Jos said, yeah, it's absolutely flat for us, there's no doubt about that. I'm sure the implication of that was, well, we haven't got enough power to make it problematic whether we've got lift off or not.
It was announced this weekend those Asiatech V10s will be in the back of the European Minardi's next year. For a while, it looked as though the ex-Peugeot V10s would be out of the sport entirely.
Well, the situation regarding refueling on this restart is one that you cannot refuel the cars on the grid on this second start formation. That's why we're seeing the cars coming in now for that early pit stop. It's one of those odd situations when we get an aborted race and a second race as it is now, and this doesn't happen very often. Normally, yes, you can use those on-grid refueling Bowsers just to top up the tank as much as possible, but if the teams want to do that, the only place they can do it is in the pit lane. If they choose to refuel the cars before the start of the second start of the race, effectively, they have to go to the back of the grid, so that's why we're seeing the cars come in early.
We had a good look at just how big this track is from the top of that hill, the high point of the racetrack, looking back toward La Source, miles away. There's Rubens Barrichello. A moment ago, we saw the replay of Ralf Schumacher taking 7th place away from Jos Verstappen.
Fisichella has a 6th in Brazil and a 4th in Germany, but most of the year has been spent with DNFs and finishes in the teens. So this is a wonderful revival for Benetton and a great hope for things to come. Although, ironically, Fisichella will not be part of that package next year. Trulli will replace him, and Fisichella will go over to Jordan.
I wonder what his thoughts are this weekend, seeing
bittersweet
such a revitalized effort.
Yeah.
Just after he signs a contract to change teams next year.
Trulli, no doubt, is very happy to see the change of circumstance.
This is Rubens Barrichello from P3 at the end of lap 9.
Well, he probably realized he was getting absolutely nowhere with Fisichella, so best to make a stop at this stage, perhaps.
He had Coulthard right behind him, and Ralf Schumacher on the move coming forward. The two men he's fighting for second place in the Drivers' Championships. Jacques Villeneuve pits, and Ralf Schumacher pits. As our Verstappen will be in soon too.
Our friend Alistair Gibson, the chief mechanic from BAR, a huge, great towering man when he gets in the pit lane. There's no chance of missing your stop when Alistair's there, is there?
This is Villeneuve.
That was a quick stop.
Meanwhile, on the racetrack, Michael Schumacher in pursuit of a very special place in Formula One history, looking for his 52nd career win. It's Barrichello now engaged with Mika Häkkinen.
And they both stopped, so Häkkinen got around Barrichello on that stop.
Into, in effect, third. Häkkinen.
Well, Fisichella's got to stop yet, so...
Häkkinen's so effective here last year.
Here comes Michael Schumacher. The race leader is in. Michael suffered a huge crash in testing last week at Mugello. His second major testing crash of the month. The other coming at Monza when the diffuser broke. 2 big shunts. Unfortunately, he was hurt in neither of them.
Long stop.
David Coulthard is also in the pit lane. There comes the McLaren at the back of your picture. Well, Giancarlo Fisichella has gone through into the lead. There he is. Boy, when was the last time we called a Benetton as race leader?
Now then, this is going to be crucial for Michael Schumacher, because when he catches up with that Benetton, is he going to be able to pass it? Or is that going to hold him up while the other two guys catch him up? Barrichello and Häkkinen.
I think he's pretty far ahead.
Well, it pulled 18 seconds out on him in, 6 laps.
Yeah.
So if he can pull that 18 seconds back in the next 6.
Well, Schumacher eating him up.
Here he comes.
David's point is good, though. Will he be delayed? He can afford to be. He can afford to be, but he won't want to be.
He won't want to be delayed too much, because all it needs is one slip up on that next stop.
Somewhere Luciano Benetton is smiling. Final season for his eponymously named team before it becomes the Renault factory effort next year.
Who would have thought, gentlemen, early in the year when Benetton was laboring at the back of the grid that they would lead the Belgian Grand Prix in confident style? Incredible turnaround of events.
Absolutely.
Incredible.
This is right off the top of my head, but the last time a Benetton led might have been the European Grand Prix at the Nürburgring back in '99. A lead authored by this same man, Giancarlo Fisichella, in a wet, dry race.
Whoa!
Into the pits.
The pits.
In which he finished second, am I right?
No, he spun off, didn't he?
Behind Johnny Herbert's victory, I think he spun off. Everybody spun out of the lead that day, including David Coulthard, as I recall. Johnny Herbert went on to win Jackie Stewart his first race.
As Johnny Herbert said, nobody wanted to win that one, is it?
Team that became Jaguar.
Well, boys, are we changing the tyres or are we not changing the tyres?
We're not changing the tyres.
Did you hear that funny engine note? It sounded more like a tractor.
Well, I don't really understand the logic behind that, but Benetton did not change tyres on that pit stop.
Well, Benetton,
which they could have easily done.
Benetton, a Michelin runner. Maybe they know something we don't about those tyres.
Well, I can only guess that there was some sort of mix-up and the team did not have the tyres ready to go on the car, because the slowest part of the pit stop procedure is the refueling. So it's not like they're saving time by not changing tyres. I mean, you're dealing with absolute... Remember, you know, at the point of blowing my own trumpet and Benettons at the time, we can change tyres alone in 3.2 seconds here in 93 at Spa. So if you're looking at saving time, you're not doing it by not changing tyres. Not really on that. Not sure what they were thinking of there.
It worked beautifully. What happened moments after that 3.2 second tyre change?
It was a remarkable pit stop, and Patrese spun it as soon as he went back onto track.
I'll tell you what, McLaren must be breathing a collective sigh of relief after completely messing up qualifying yesterday. They're now running very strong in the race. Of course, their big rivals, the Williams team, one of whom is out already, Montoya, and Ralph Schumacher running near the back. So this is really going to put a bit of a lot probably on their second place in the Constructors' Championship.
Well, Fisichella came back on the racetrack in second, so if he's being hurt in terms of traction, he has fuel and a fairly bizarre strategy.
McLaren has won Spa 10 times to Ferrari's 11, so they're the main protagonists. Williams only 4 times. Their luck has been out on this track, and it was again today,
and
at least so far.
In those pit stops, Barrichello came out badly there. Both McLarens getting around.
Olivier Panis, currently running 12th, is right now being told that he's going to be called in for a stop-and-go penalty. We're not quite sure yet. It may have been a pit lane speed violation during his pit stop. We'll have to wait and see. You see the running order. Fisichella holding on to second place, but on worn tires. Coulthard and Häkkinen coming forward. Barrichello was hoping to keep Coulthard behind him in that battle for second place in the World Championship.
Look at Sean Alesi keeping pace with
Julie.
Jordan. Alesi having only his set. Here we go. Villeneuve. No, we see Pettis completing his stop-and-go penalty. I noticed that Alesi, in only his second drive for Jordan, seems to have fitted in absolutely beautifully, Steve.
Yes, he does. He just seems to be doing a very good job. Now, let's have another look at this Benetton pit stop, just to see, you know, this is news for us as well. We want to see whether we can see air guns. We want to see whether or not we can see tyres. Now, you can see the guy on the right-hand side has a new tyre and he's ready to go on the car, but there seems to be no front tyre change. Now, we should see rears being changed, but no fronts.
Well, they obviously meant to do that then.
Well, that settles it.
That puzzles us, but...
The McLarens don't appear to be making much of a dent in Fisichella. We're on board with him.
Hold your breath.
He lifted.
Faintest lift.
I don't think Alesi did.
Didn't sound like it, did it?
I know I lifted.
Where's the McLaren?
I remember years ago asking Ayrton Senna that question, and he said, you always go down there thinking, I'm going to be flat, I'm going to be flat, I'm going to be flat, but almost inevitably, you aren't.
It's the kind of turn which makes you want to get the turn before it, the La Source hairpin, all wrong. So you don't carry any speed into it.
Down towards Buhon.
The first part of that onboard coverage was a look at, so to speak, the new part of Spa. It used to be 8 miles around. It's now 4.5, as David pointed out. But it shows you how epic it still is.
Well, it sure is. You can see that dust up. It's an ugly corner. Coming wobbling into there.
These are some great shots.
Aren't they?
I mean, even when they put the new part of the track in, it still has very complex turns, Puhan, that double apex thing. Very difficult and very fast. The track is just fast all the way around.
Bottoming out. You see it bottoming out, going towards Rading on there to O'Rourke. And he's holding David Coulthard at bay pretty easily. I mean, David Coulthard's not snapping at his heels, and they're both pulling away from Mika Hakkinen and Barrichello.
Look at that gap for Michael Schumacher, out to 22.7 seconds. Ferrari is rumored to be working with a major supplier on developing a radical new Grand Prix transmission that does away with the clutch assembly, and of course with that the friction losses in terms of horsepower.
Yeah, it's quite an exciting idea. I think what they're trying to do is, if they can do away with the clutch, they can do all sorts of exciting possibilities. Now, remember, since Spain and the technical regulations have changed with traction control and whatever coming back in, the teams are allowed to change hydraulically the clamp loads on the diff inside the gearbox. Now, if the teams are able to do that, and they can disconnect and connect the drive through the hydraulics in the diff, they effectively don't need to use the clutch any longer. That means all sorts of exciting possibilities. You get rid of that 1.2 kilos of extra mass. But also, for a team like Ferrari, there is a possibility that you could cast engine and transmission into one housing. All of a sudden, you start to close that gap up. That bell housing seems to disappear. You only need a spline shaft coming out the back. We could see all sorts of exciting things. If Ferrari get this sorted, one of the biggest problems with other teams, of course, in the past is that the engine supplier and the gearbox builders by that meaning are different people, and they will never get together. Of course, that's not the situation at Ferrari.
Look at Tarso Marquez going across the grass here at the bus stop.
Marquez in what appears to be his final race for the European Minardi team. Alex Young, young Malaysian, 25 years old, will be taking over effective 2 weeks from now at the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. Boy, talk about jumping in at the deep end.
Hakkinen here losing ground almost the tune of a second a lap to David Coulthard. So Coulthard, if he gets around Fisichella, it'll be interesting to see if he pulls away. But he certainly doesn't seem to be particularly snapping at his heels. Barrichello is the one that's coming off worst in this quest for second in the Drivers' Championship. You know, the questions going into this week were, is Michael Schumacher going to help him? Well, he can't help him much if he's got a 20-second lead and another 10 seconds on Barrichello.
I noticed that Alesi is keeping pace with Trulli. He's still 4 seconds adrift of him.
Ferrari was in the historic and vintage car news over last weekend. A 1932 Alfa Romeo Corto Spider was sold at auction in England. It's believed to be the first chassis to carry what is now the famous Ferrari prancing horse logo. The car was found, and I meant to take this up with you, David, found in a barn in Buckinghamshire, and is going to need extensive restoration. Battle for 10th here, Jenson Button and Ralf Schumacher.
Button looking, Steve, as if his brake balance isn't what it should be.
Yeah.
A little too much on the front.
But I just can't believe the way that BMW-powered Williams didn't just blow by him on that long uphill Kemmel straight. That Renault, the wide-angle Renault engine, they've been doing a lot to it this year. It obviously must be giving a lot more horsepower than we've been led to believe.
And again, the situation with the downforce. Look at the little rear wing on the Benetton in comparison to the rear wing on the Williams.
Yeah.
Benetton are running significantly less downforce.
What a difference a year makes. It was just last year here that Jenson Button gave such good account of himself in qualifying. Now he's being totally outpaced by his teammate.
And of course, he was a teammate to Ralf Schumacher last year, and he out-qualified him here. First time Button has been here, and he jumped to third on the grid. Tremendous go.
Well, we just saw that. I don't know if we can get a replay or whether or not the cameras might pick that up later. There's a great puff of white smoke in the pit lane now. I don't know whether or not, there's engine backfiring or there's an awful lot of oil coming out of it. We'll try and pick that up, but we've got a lot of smoke being seen down in the pit lane towards the pit exit.
Put a period on my Ferrari story. In case you were wondering, $1.54 million for that Alfa.
I thought all those cars being found in barns had all been found by now. I can't believe there's still some out there.
I keep looking in my barn and I never see one.
There's nothing in there at Old Gardening till...
We can dream, can't we? Finnish flag waving for Mika Häkkinen, Kimi Räikkönen having already departed the Belgian Grand Prix.
We don't know what happened to Kimi, did we? We saw him do that long run back, but we never did quite find out what happened to him.
The car was parked. It appeared to be in good condition. No word on what that smoke in the pit lane might have been from.
David Coulthard, who won here a couple of years ago.
This is a very, very impressive performance by Benetton, I have to say. That 111-degree engine has given them all sorts of problems, of course, as we know, on reliability. But one of the biggest problems as far as the chassis designs are concerned is the wider and wider you make the V-angle on the engine, the lower the engine mounts have to be, obviously. You imagine an X shape being bolted to the back of the chassis. That's where the engine mounts are. You start to widen the X shape when you start to drop down the mounting points, and that makes the car flex in between the engine mounts and the chassis to an extent that...
nose wing has gone on Rubens Barrichello's Ferrari. Excuse me, Steve.
Oh, no.
And he's just past the pits, too. He's going to have to make an entire 4.5-mile lap before he can
so it must have happened in the bus stop chicane. He might have gotten up too close behind Häkkinen.
Boy, I wouldn't want to drive through Eau Rouge without everything in place. He's going to lose a tremendous amount of ground here.
Word from the corner workers at Stabilo is that Michael Schumacher almost went off down there on that last lap. So I wonder if the rain has finally arrived. New nose for Barrichello.
And there you can see the 4-pin mounting mechanism that the teams use now.
How long will he be stopped, Steve? Your guess?
If they're just going to change the nose, they should be able to do that in about 6 or 7 seconds. The problem is now with the main plane missing off the nose, they can't use the quick lift jack on the front, so they need to actually stand in. The mechanics need to stand in and manually, by grabbing hold of the suspension, lift the car up, put the low stand under, and not forget to take it out, of course, like the Williams mechanics did. Put the low stand under, change the nose, then put the quick release jack under and take the stand back out. It's a procedure that they practice on and off throughout the weekend. If they're just going to do the nose, 5 or 6 seconds should do it.
This is Jarno Trulli coming up, and you see what happens when you lose that front end downforce.
Oh, that flat spot, badly flat spot, that tyre. Here comes Alesi to go around him now. No.
Ooh. Oh. Barrichello not being too cooperative.
Bad break for Alesi.
Yes. But Barrichello, of course, is going to have to be real careful going up the hill here now when he comes to Blanchimont. Going remarkably quickly, considering he has no front downforce at all.
Don't tell the aerodynamicists that, David.
Well, that'll be so. Better put his seat back in the wind tunnel.
Here he comes.
Shades of 1956 Ferrari won here with a car that looked a lot like that with Fangio driving. Big wide thing, Lancia Ferrari.
So see how the Ferrari mechanics handle this situation now. Assuming there's no other collateral damage.
You see him lift onto the low stand. Now that's underneath the front part of the chassis. They'll change tyres as well. Because
Jenson Button in the wall.
We are going for very heavy attrition rate.
Oh.
That's in the bus stop chicane, so that car is in an awkward position now.
It is.
There's another look. Ralph right behind him.
Ooh.
Oh.
Now that was weird. He went over the curb and
Off came the front
the
wing.
wing came up.
I've had that exact thing happen to me, where the ring goes under the tire and deprives you of the steering. Exactly like
It
that.
just snapped off, didn't it? I don't think it hit anything.
Well, that
Well,
main plane seemed to snap off incredibly easily. I mean, they're going over the curbs all the while. So my guess is that there was damage to that nose. It's somewhere else. That main plane has been damaged before. Maybe we missed that a couple of corners earlier on because that was too minor a shunt to take the main plane straight off.
Now there's Barrichello losing his front wing in the same place. I wonder if the curbing is causing all this damage. I mean, I can't believe wing after wing would just come off.
And we've been watching super slow-mo shots all weekend of the cars riding over the curbs.
Now we need one. We haven't got one.
You could be pretty sure that the word is going out to Michael right now. Be careful at the chicane. Don't butcher it.
We need to get to a break, but we have great news officially from the press room. Luciano Berti has been transferred to University Hospital. He has a concussion, but is otherwise unhurt after that incredible crash that brought out the red flag here in Belgium. So we'll give you a quick look at the front runners: Schumacher, Fisichella, Coulthard, and Hakkinen. Jarno Trulli pits. We'll be back.
Speed Vision's coverage of Formula One is sponsored by Prudential Financial, a rock-solid leader in financial services. Choose Prudential Financial to help you grow and protect your wealth. And by Cadillac, the fusion of design and technology.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at some of the highlights of this Belgian Grand Prix thus far. Heinz-Harald Frentzen aborted the first start by losing the fire in his Prost. Juan Pablo Montoya started from pole but could not restart after a red flag. More on that in a moment. Michael Schumacher attacked brother Ralph immediately to assume the race lead and has led all but one lap to this point. The red flag was brought out by this contact between Eddie Irvine's Jaguar and his former teammate Luciano Berti in the Prost. The front wing came off the Prost. Berti's shot right across the gravel trap, heavily into the tire wall. And let me update that recent medical report. He suffered a concussion, and earlier we were told there were no other injuries. Now we hear they may be checking on a possible broken bone in his arm or his leg. Ralf Schumacher found himself in the awkward position of the mechanics not having taken the jack stands out from under the car after the red flag. He has been working his way back from the back of the pack. Michael Schumacher, meanwhile, has dominated.
He certainly has. As you see in the Bridgestone race reset, Michael Schumacher has been out front pretty much the whole way. There was one lap led by Giancarlo Fisichella, but the real story is Schumacher going to hold on and win his 52nd Grand Prix, taking the all-time lead in Grand Prix wins from Alain Prost. And right now, he looks totally on track to do that.
And when he does, he will no doubt take over the all-time lead in laps and miles led as well. End of lap 21 now. Jacques Villeneuve pits for the final time.
Villeneuve, who made his first laps here after studying the track on a video game, promptly took the pole.
Went on to win the race, as I recall. Not in 96? Well, perhaps not. Giancarlo Fisichella has had quite a day here in Belgium.
Boy, hasn't he ever. I mean, absolutely extraordinary. Holding off David Coulthard. David Coulthard, of course, consolidating that chase for second in the championship, very much so, especially now Rubens Barrichello is effectively out of it, as is Ralf Schumacher. So this will be good for David Coulthard. He had 5 points on Barrichello, and he had 8 on Schumacher, so he's looking pretty good now.
Yeah, I really stress the irony of this. This is Fisichella's 4th season with Benetton, and right now we're seeing his best ever race coming exactly on the heels of the announcement that he is leaving Benetton.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, this is one of those deals where he and Jarno Trulli both come under the managership of Flavio Briatore, and Briatore wanted to change them around. They were coming up for renewals of their contracts, which stood to make big money for them. And I think he changed them around deftly to put them back at the bottom of the money pile again.
That's an interesting point you just made there, Sam, about this being Fisichella's best race on the just after the announcement that he's about to leave the team. And if you remember, exactly the same thing happened to Gerhard Berger back in '97 on the very day where Briatore announced that Berger's contract would not be renewed. Berger goes on to set pole position, fastest lap, and win the Hockenheim Grand Prix. You know, it was absolutely remarkable. If he could have done that one time, why couldn't he have done it a few more times?
It's a common phenomenon in American sports called contract year. Stop for Giancarlo Fisichella. I was wondering about those fronts. Of course, the longer they wear, the more they become like the old-style grooveless slicks.
That car looks solid, didn't it, on the road? Boy, oh boy.
Correcting Jacques Villeneuve's record, pole in '96. He finished second that year in the Belgian Grand Prix. He's never won it. Once
Come
again,
on.
no front.
This is absolutely remarkable. Look at the condition of the fronts. They're nearly slick now.
And if there are no grooves visible at the end of the race, he risks being disqualified. This is Mika Häkkinen.
Quick stop for Häkkinen.
I wonder if there's some problem that's preventing Benetton from changing those front tires. There has to be something wrong with the car.
I don't see any sort of sign of stress by the mechanics looking around checking. If they thought they'd got jam wheel nut, yes, you could have one, but you don't have two. And if there is, then the mechanics are constantly checking to make sure that everything's still safe and sound enough to run. But I mean, at the end of the race, if they continue like this, those tires are going to be slick and illegal.
Mika Häkkinen comes out right behind Ralf Schumacher. Remember Mika's pass a year ago at this point on the track on Ralph's brother Michael. This time he tries the outside and completes it.
Wow. So Ralf Schumacher, the BMW Williams team, it would certainly seem that they've got way too much downforce, wouldn't it? I mean, you've been saying it all weekend, Steve, that they're carrying a huge amount of wing.
Well,
for them to be not quicker up that straight than anybody else seems extraordinary to me.
It does seem extraordinary, but as we've touched on as well, David, earlier on, you know, if they've got that extra horsepower, you can pull the extra downforce, but they seem to have got their sums wrong in many respects over this weekend, and yet they had such an incredible performance in qualifying.
Well, as the saying goes, that's why we run the races. You see Michael Schumacher flashing over Radillon onto the Kimmel straightaway, uphill. This is Coulthard in at the end of lap 24.
So that'll put Fisichella back into second spot again. Fisichella's had 5 second career finishes. One of them here in 1997.
From second place, 12 laps to go.
See, all new tyres put onto the McLaren now. You can see how much quicker that procedure is in comparison to refueling the car. So there is no time advantage to be done in not changing the tyres.
Fisichella comes through into second place. Coulthard was a fraction of a second late. But Coulthard may get him
at the end of the straight.
We'll see. Häkkinen did it on Ralph. We'll see if DC can do it to Fisichella.
I can only speculate that the tyres that they're using as they wear and wear down on the front is helping with the front end grip. As we said, you know, once you start to wear those grooves down, maybe the tyres are coming to the road and helping to reduce understeer. But boy, they're playing a very, very dangerous game if they continue not changing them.
Absolutely. I mean, they come in slick, they're going to be disqualified.
Coulthard unable to pass. He was slowed on his in lap by Tarso Marquez in the Minardi at Blanchimont. And that has contributed to costing him second place. Michael Schumacher pits from the race lead. A handy lead at that, more than 30 seconds. More than 40 seconds. So he should be able to reassume in the race lead.
this is a degree of domination that we saw at Hungary.
Which we weren't sure about here. We thought that Williams were going to be very quick here, and also the McLaren record here is pretty stellar the last 2 or 3 years. But Michael Schumacher been unbelievably quick all weekend, except the one lap that mattered yesterday afternoon. So he's still in 11 starts here, still hasn't had pole, but headed for his, what, 5th win? 6th, of course, if you count the one he really won in 1994. He got disqualified for the
plank
for the barge board, which Steve matched it. We won't want to get him started on it, but we will get him started on it. What
it was all Steve's fault.
Not a barge board, the underbody plank.
I don't mean the barge board, I mean the underbody plank.
Well, there is a regulation where you're only allowed to wear 1 millimetre off that plank, and we've seen as the cars go down into Eau Rouge, those big brown clouds is basically the wood smoke being distributed off that plank when it grounds out. Michael spun over some of the curbing. We've seen the serrations on the curbing through the super slow-mo cameras, and the plank was damaged as a result of that. However, the stewards decided that there was no evidence whatsoever that the car had spun over the curbing. It was worn down because of the curbing, and we were thrown out and lost the race as a result of it.
So he should be heading for his 6th win here, really.
Another story entirely is how many points have been taken away from Michael Schumacher over the years for one indiscretion or another. Updating the battle for second place in the World Championship, David Coulthard and Ralf Schumacher are in the points. Rubens Barrichello is not. We could see a change in the standings when this one's over. Welcome back live to the Belgian Grand Prix. This was Mika Häkkinen moments ago, shortcutting the chicane. Michael Schumacher currently leads a great battle for second between Giancarlo Fisichella right here, who has it. David Coulthard in third, wants it. Häkkinen runs 4th, Ralf Schumacher 5th, and Jarno Trulli the 6th and final points man. Change there. Trulli up into 5th, and John Lacey, his Jordan teammate, up into 6th. Now, as you may have heard, we have some news regarding the U.S. Grand Prix at Indianapolis later this month. We'll have exclusive live coverage of Friday and Saturday practices, as well as qualifying, just as we did last year. Now, here come the changes. We will televise the morning warm-up on Sunday live, and we will have tape-delayed coverage of the race itself. ABC Sports has the live rights, but they will not have access to the digital onboard feed seen only in Europe, and we will be bringing them to you here in America on Speed Vision. We'll have all the onboards. You'll see them all. Catch our coverage Sunday, October 7th, 8 Eastern, 9 Pacific.
Sorry, Bob. Coulthard made an incredible move there on Fisichella, desperation move almost, and it looked to me as if they touched, but it was very brief.
Well, they were getting caught up in the back marker there in Verstappen, and Bernaldi, and as they went through there, boy, that looked really close. David Coulthard now getting desperate.
Now,
around the outside,
yes.
Gets him in Lacombe this time.
Great pass.
And you notice Mika Häkkinen has the highest top speed, up around 200 miles an hour. Actually, closer to 190, I guess.
Look at the discoloration on the rear wing of the McLaren. You see it's got a sort of orange mist forming over the back of it there. And I believe that is oil that's been spraying out the back of the Renault engine that has been following for so long. Have a look at the discoloration on Häkkinen's car, and it's much, much less. Now, we were writing something on the website about additional oil tanks and supplementary oil tanks for the amount of oil that they're using in the race. And if you remember back at Hockenheim, you see the discoloration on the rear wing there? I have a feeling that's oil that's being sprayed out. And that's not burnt oil, that's unburnt oil mist that these things tend to chuck out. There is a system built into the cars that are trying to control that to a degree. But I understand that certain teams are still using supplementary oil tanks to top up the oil during the race. They're not allowed to do that in the pit stops, of course. So effectively, all they're doing is moving oil that's stored in one tank and putting it back into another tank. It's a way of legally topping up and stopping within the regulations. So
meanwhile, the oil in the first tank is going onto the drivers on the racetrack.
Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. Just great.
Coulthard's car balanced beautifully for this phase in the race.
Now he's got away from
Fisichella.
He's actually rocketing away now.
In position for 6 championship points, firming up second place in the championship. If he can keep them, it'll bring his total to 57. Well, Rubens Barrichello is still outside the points, as you see, in 7th place. We'll take a quick break and return. Stand by for more live from Spa-Francorchamps. Back live Live in Belgium, Bob Varsha, Sam Posey, David Hobbs, and Steve Matchett with you. There is Ralph Schumacher, who moments ago went around Jacques Villeneuve for 8th place, and he is now zeroing in on Rubens Barrichello, just ahead in the Ferrari. Both men outside the points. Schumacher trails Barrichello by 2 for 3rd place in the World Championship.
John Lacey right in front of Rubens Barrichello here, looking for a points finish with just 7 or 8 laps to go.
Boy, don't you know the two men behind him are aware that that is 6th place. That there are points ahead if they can get around the yellow Jordan Honda.
Meantime, of course, Lacey, who has delivered points for Prost early in the year, now trying to do the same thing for Jordan. Jordan, who won their first GP here with Damon Hill driving, and Ralph Schumacher finishing 2nd, is once again poised for a very strong finish at Spa.
The only thing better than watching one car go up through Eau Rouge to Red Yon is watching 3 cars do it. Onto the Kemmel Straight. Ralph looks down the inside. Not much to separate those 3 on top end. We'll take another quick break. Checkered flag drawing nigh in Belgium. Stay with us.
Speed Vision's coverage of Formula One is sponsored by BMW. Find yours at BMWUSA.com.
Welcome back to Speed Vision's coverage of the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa. We have just over 5 laps to go of the 36 of this truncated race, and you see the battle here for 6th place. That is Jean Alesi holding off Rubens Barrichello and Ralph Schumacher right there, who of course had a difficult time getting underway. His car up on jack stands. Rubens Barrichello lost time due to his nose being knocked off, and as for Jean Alesi, he's just had a good drive in a somewhat slower car. They're battling for 6th, a championship point, and it's a fraught situation with Jarno Trulli just up the road in the other Jordan.
Well, this day has certainly had a lot of symmetry for Michael Schumacher. He has dominated the race. He'll take over the lead in a couple of all-time Formula One categories, including miles led and laps led, and perhaps most important of all-time victories if he can hold on for his 62nd. And all this coming 10 years to the race from his debut in Formula One as a kid from the Mercedes Junior team, for whom the factory bought a ride with Eddie Jordan's brand new squad, replacing Bertrand Gachot. Remember him? He was in jail in London for using mace on a cabbie when he thought he was under threat, but that's another story. Michael Schumacher qualified an amazing 7th. And although the car let him down early in the race, notice had been taken. 2 weeks later, he was a Benetton driver. Barrichello going around Alesi. Now Ralph Schumacher will have that to do if he's going to stay on par with the Ferrari.
Jean Alesi there went to the inside to guard the passing, but it was no good, and Rubens Barrichello went the hard way, went round the outside, as Coulthard did Fischer-Gillis just a few laps back. So a great pass there by Barrichello, no doubt breathing a huge sigh of relief now as Alesi holds his arch rival for that 2nd place in the championship at bay, Ralph Schumacher. There you see it again. See, old Alesi had moved right over to the right-hand side of the track there, and Ralphie thought he might just follow through, but it was not to be. Big clouds of brake dust coming out of the Schumacher car.
Now, Ralph Schumacher, recall earlier in this race, had a tough time getting around Jasper Verstappen. So I'm wondering, he perhaps just lacks that bit of slashing passing technique that Michael has.
I think most people do.
Oh, there goes Jarno Trulli's Honda.
Oh.
Just as Rubens Barrichello was going to begin putting pressure on him, and as we've said so often, the Jordans just seem to fail just at the most crucial moments, and yet today it seemed to be their day, and suddenly it isn't. Alesi demoted from a point-scoring position just as his teammate goes out from 4th place. Now Alesi, of course, is back in the points.
So he's got to really keep Schumacher at bay. Ralph Schumacher, because they're battling for that last point.
It looks bleak for Jordan. I got to have the feeling Ralph is going to get by before the end of this race.
So that's the 2nd big blow-up we've seen in the afternoon. Montoya's BMW engine let go earlier on, and that's one of the Honda engines going there. Rubens Barrichello pulling away now from Jean Alesi. Up into the Lake Combe where he passed him on that last lap. Jarno Trulli.
Jarno Trulli thinks to himself, this is a bad day, but next year could be terrific. I get to drive that Benetton.
Yeah.
But you can see that's not on his mind right now.
Well, he has said time and again this year that he just hasn't had the car under him. I'm surprised Eddie Jordan hasn't ordered his driver to clam up more often, because he's just been very frustrated. In fact, at one point he said that Eddie Jordan is doing something with his money other than developing his racing car. It got fairly nasty at one point until Trulli could take it no more and decided to become a Benetton driver.
Well, of course, there are huge amounts of money sloshing around in these Formula One teams. Ralf Schumacher going through Fagnes there, really all over Jean Alesi. Jean Alesi, of course, coming up for his 200th race.
And I think, David, don't you, over his long career, many of his best races have been this year in underrated equipment, but he's had a marvelous season for Prost first and now for Jordan.
Now, this is where the BMW power should really count, although the Honda
with all that
certainly wouldn't like
downforce
to be thinking it was out in the power race, but the downforce certainly seems to be negating that extra power.
And if Trulli's engine blow was a result, if you just see a great cloud of carbon dust coming out the front brakes of the Williams chassis, but if Trulli's engine failure was a result of oil consumption on this Honda engine and these closing laps, boy, oh boy, Alesi's got to be a very worried man as well.
Alesi's 200th Grand Prix, by the way, will come, all things being equal, at the United States Grand Prix at Indianapolis. So grab a ticket. Some are still available. Come out and celebrate with the Frenchman.
Here's where your attack has got to involve the enormous courage that it takes to drive up Eau Rouge, because when you're behind, here he comes, closing in, in, here we go. Nope, not enough. Can't get close enough up Eau Rouge because Jean Alesi is doing such a superb job. He's leaving no opportunities for Ralf Schumacher.
Meanwhile, Rubens Barrichello is drawing away.
That's a done deal. Barrichello's gone.
And Coulthard has pulled out 10 seconds on Fisichella, having got around him just a few laps ago.
And Hakkinen is languishing in fourth, a man who won here so brilliantly last year. You've got to feel that somehow the fire has gone out there, or at least is
and of course,
only simmering.
McLaren have not made a decision on their drivers for next year. David Coulthard has signed up. That car, that Williams, in spite of all that downforce, is certainly looking a little bit twitchy. But Ron Dennis and Mika Hakkinen have not yet come to any sort of accommodation for next year. And the rumors are going that Hakkinen wants more money and more time, and that Ron Dennis wants to give him 1 year only and a bit less money than Hakkinen wants. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all resolves itself. The team have not done a good job for either driver this year. I'll tell you, yeah.
All right, here
giving
comes
Villeneuve a chance to catch up.
Yep, here comes the next big moment of possible passing. What Ralph has to do is nail this turn perfectly, the source hairpin, get the power on right now, and hang in there with Alesi all the way up the hill, which is tough to do because Jean is driving the wheels off this Jordan.
He is, and I'm sure the Honda engineers are very keen for Alesi to start to back off a little bit and save the engine, but of course he's in no position to do that.
Here he comes.
Well, he came out of the corner right behind him, but I still don't think he's quite close enough.
This is when he wishes he could back a little of that wing off, because he needs it right here, but he's going to try it. Oh, gosh. That's the closest he's gotten yet, of course. But Alesi brilliantly cutting him off. That's absolutely fair racing.
You mentioned the Honda engineers. Keep in mind, each man's teammate is out of the race with a blown engine. One Honda, one BMW.
Good point, Bob, yes.
One lap. So Ralph has one more shot to get into the championship points. And Jean Alesi, who has brought home points for Prost in 6th place a couple of times, 3 times this year, may be about to bring home a point, much needed point for the Jordan team, if he can hold off Ralf Schumacher.
This is half a lap. The only chance Ralph's got now really is the bus stop.
We'll have another lap.
He has another lap.
Is that a puff of smoke from one or the other?
I think it was a little bit of tire smoke.
These guys will have one more lap.
Michael just began his final lap. These guys will follow him around. And going back to your... Shimon? I don't think so.
It'll be interesting to see what Alesi does to block this time. He may take a different line down straight at the top of the hill.
I don't think the Williams brakes ahead of one of those catastrophic disc There's an awful lot of dust coming out, isn't there?
Well, the circuit's not particularly prone for big brake wear, but I mean, he's really charging hard into those corners. There it is again.
Yeah. Here it comes. All right, now here, all right, back to Michael on his last lap. You are seeing history in the making as he appears to be about to take the all-time lead in races won.
Going back to your point earlier, Sam, about Alain Prost, who was dealing with Luciano Berti's injury situation, it would be great if Alain Prost could be brought up to the interview room to be asked his thoughts as Michael Schumacher eclipses his fellow four-time world champion. 10 years ago, he was the newest young thing in Formula One. He soon went to the Benetton team. A year after his debut, he won his first Grand Prix here at Spa. And now Michael Schumacher brings the career achievement circle complete with his 52nd Formula One victory, and with it, the all-time record. Truly driving with the legends of Grand Prix racing. David Coulthard will come across in second place, consolidating second in the World Championship with 3 races to go. And Giancarlo Fisichella with an extraordinary boost for the beleaguered Benetton Renault team with the 3rd and final podium position.
Very, very keen to have a look at those Michelins on the front of that car when we get into Park.
I guess that final podium spot is not quite
Here
firmly
comes
in
Hakkinen, and then we're going to be looking, of course, for Barrichello, but then will it be a Lacey or Ralph Schumacher? There, Barrichello looking up the road. John Alesi or Ralph Schumacher, yellow or blue and white?
It's happened to Ralph.
Well, they're coming along. There it is. It's still Alesi ahead. Ralph was unable to get by. John Alesi hangs on for 6. Isn't that terrific? What a gutsy, fabulous performance.
Directly into Parc Fermé, just around the corner of La Source. And Jarno Trulli. Now is not time. Good time to ask for an autograph, kid. Look at Michael. Remember a year ago in Italy when he tied the late Ayrton Senna on the career win list and he was overcome? Herbie Blash, FIA official there to offer his congratulations. And in a few minutes, we'll hear what Michael has to say about becoming the most successful Grand Prix driver of all time. It's been all good for Ferrari this month, aside from the fact they had a small fire at the factory last week. Giancarlo Fisichella offers his congratulations. I'm with you, Steve. I'd love to see those front tires.
Yes. My eyes are sort of scanning around trying to find the chassis.
Lazy there.
Ralph somehow managing to smile, although he's just been aced out of a championship point.
Ralph's looking a bit dour there.
He is looking a bit dour.
I just couldn't get around anybody today.
I couldn't get around anybody, and you know what the mechanics did? You'll never guess what they did. What do you think they did? You'll never believe, Michael.
They're going to put him in a vehicle. Actually, this is
an unusual. It's a unique circuit because the podium celebrations where it is on the opposite side. It's on the old 3000 circuit, so it's on the opposite side of the pits.
Another look at Michael Schumacher in the final meters of the most triumphant race of his career. We'll be back for the interviews and, of course, the podium in just a moment. Who did not reach the finish line in today's Belgian Grand Prix, won by Michael Schumacher over David Coulthard and Giancarlo Fisichella.
What a great run Fisichella had today. I mean, that engine hanging in there, not exactly been a bastion of reliability all the year. The chassis has had some troubles as well, but it has won this most testing ground of all. He hung in there for second for so long and finally had to accede to David Coulthard and end up a really strong third.
Top Michelin runner.
Of course, already a 4-time world champion, now icing the cake with his 52nd victory.
Isn't that incredible? 52 wins. Just 10 years this weekend that Bob and I were here watching him do his first Formula One event for Jordan here. Qualified 7th, of course, which was an amazing achievement because the Jordan was a real midfield running car.
And let's recall that story we told yesterday. Michael Schumacher's agent, Willie Weber, convinced Eddie Jordan that Michael knew his way around Spa like the back of his hand from his sports car days. Michael recently said the truth was, I've been around the place twice on a bicycle.
Never been here at all before, right? Yeah. And of course, the other Jordan, in the hands of de Chesris, very nearly won that event.
Grand Prix wins, winning here this afternoon at Spa. David Coulthard second and Giancarlo Fisichella third overall.
Thank you.
Michael, you made amazing starts both times, but it must be said that Williams rather helped themselves to the back of the grid.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's unfortunate for my brother, obviously. When you say I made an amazing start, I don't think that's true. I think the guy next to me made an amazing start. I don't know which position he came from, but he almost took me. So on that side, we made average starts, and I was able to just defend my position. And thanks to whatever problem Williams had, I didn't have to fight against them because you saw the first start, they just pulled away and I had no chance. And I think even on the second start, if rather from the second position, he would have just beat me into the first corner. We didn't need to find out, and I had a clear race from that moment on, and obviously delighted.
Now, thousands and thousands of fans across the border from Kerpen, your hometown, and from Germany, they kept you company during the race, but as you said, it really was, you were out on your own. How easy was it to keep your concentration and control?
I mean, I was pushing flat out until, I'd say, the second pit stop. Then I eased off. For whatever reason, I thought I had the chance to open up the gap for an extra pit stop, and we didn't know what would the weather do. So I just wanted to have that safety, and because obviously I was faster than Giancarlo and David couldn't get by, I was able to open up such a lead. That helped. I lost once the concentration going wide in turn 15. I was just playing with too many buttons at the same time, and then running wide and almost gone into the barrier. It didn't need much to do that, but when you fight on the limit, when you drive, then that's what can happen.
Thank you very much, Michael. David, second place. Before you came here to Spa, would you have ever predicted you'd have spent so much of the race looking at the rear wing of a Benetton?
Absolutely not. No, Giancarlo was doing an amazing race. Obviously, his car was working better than it has done this season, and he was quick in all the right areas. So out of La Source and out of Stavolo, so it was very difficult to get close. And I knew that my opportunity might come at the pit stop, and I thought I lost it when I caught one of the Minardis in Blanchimont. And I said to the team as I came down the radio, I think it's going to be close. Obviously, he came out in front of me, and then thankfully with the back marker at La Source, it just upset his rhythm a little bit, and I got the run through Eau Rouge, and thankfully was able to outbreak him. So, you know, given the weekend I've had, then obviously very happy to get second place, and you know, just hoping obviously that Luciano is 100% and able to do the next race, and then we can all feel it's been a positive weekend.
David, looking at your car during the pit stops, it was absolutely covered with oil. Was that from your car or from someone ahead of you?
I was saying to Giancarlo that I've never been behind such a messy car. I was having to wipe my visor every single straight, and I was out of rip-offs very quickly. and I understand that it just made it across the line, so I think it was spitting all its oil out as the race went on, so it's obviously a lot quicker, but a little bit close to the limit probably.
Thank you very much, David. Giancarlo, first time you've been in one of these conferences since Brazil last year. Can you put your finger on what has happened to your car to make it so much faster?
Obviously there was the new aerodynamics package here, and the car was much more competitive, easier to drive, easier to make a good setup, even much more grip than normal. During the race there was a very good balance, especially after a few laps, because at the beginning there was a lot on the steering, but then there was a good balance. We just missed a few Ks in the straight compared to the people, but maybe in Monza there is one more step on power, and we are very optimistic for the next one.
Now, you had a very unusual tyre tactic at your second stop, and you only changed the tyres at one end of the car. Can you explain why, and was it your choice?
Yeah, it was my choice. There was a problem starting with the new tyres, graining. There was a graining, and it was better to keep the same tyres. In fact, I did the race, completed at the end of the race. I went at the end of the race with the same set of tyres, just on the front, but new on the rear. Was the right choice. We did a very good job. I did two amazing starts, especially the second one from the 6th position. I went to second, and I'm happy. It's a great day, and I would like to say thank you to the team.
Thank you very much, Giancarlo. Michael, back to you. Next race, Italian Grand Prix. You've already got the championship. It's going to be quite a party at Monza.
Yeah, you can imagine. On the other side, we still want to do well, which is going to be maybe a little bit more difficult for us, looking at the characteristic of the circuits. From Hockenheim, we know Williams is very competitive there. So we have to work very hard, and we have to find out what we can actually do against this strong package of what they have. But we certainly will try, as we have tried here. But anyway, we have good reasons to celebrate down there.
Indeed you do. Michael, thank you. Now, Michael and Giancarlo, if you like.
Well, I'm glad we're in agreement with Mr. Interlocutor that the new winningest driver in Formula One history is the big story of the day, so why don't we ask him a question about the issue?
Recap, beginning with the results, gentlemen.
Well, Michael Schumacher gets that historic 52nd career victory. I've recovered now, thank you. David Coulthard in second, Giancarlo Fisichella in third, and a remarkable story about not changing those front tires.
Absolutely. Ralf Schumacher finally made it through the 7th. No points, of course. Jacques Villeneuve in 8th. Frentzen dragged himself up from the back to 9th after that great qualifying yesterday. And Verstappen had another pretty stout run. And then here you see mostly people, of course, who were not in the race at the end. Jarno truly dropping out with that blown engine with just about 4 laps to go.
Well, it's another of the stories of this race. Normally lots of attrition at Spa, but more than half the field finished today's abbreviated race.
Let's take a look at the driver's standing. Of course, Michael Schumacher extends his already awesome and unassailable lead.
David Coulthard actually did himself a lot of good today in that dice for second. Rubens Barrichello now 10 points behind him, so it's going to be very difficult to make that up in the next 3 races.
Of course, a great reason to go to the U.S. Grand Prix at Indianapolis for all you American fans is to watch Michael Schumacher, a 4-time world champion and the winningest Formula One driver of all time. Of course, lots of points still to be scored with 3 races remaining in the 2001 season.
And the Constructors' Championship still up for grabs, Bob, although, the second place in it, Ferrari, of course, has sewed it up, but McLaren did themselves a world of good today.
And Williams certainly gave themselves no help at all today with the wheels off the ground as much as they were on.
Benetton obviously picking up some valuable points there in their race, although still lying in 7th for the head of Jaguar, ahead of Arrows. Great run today by Giancarlo Fisichella, and poor old Jenson Button's run ended here at the bus stop when his wing just seemed to part company. He must have hit something with it somewhere along the line, because it just literally fell off when he went over the curb.
Well, it did fall off just when it went over the curb, but you can see the size of the height of the end plates are absolutely nowhere near the 35mm, 40mm serrations on those curbs. So certainly the pylons must have been fractured somewhere early around the circuit that we missed, and maybe it was just the vibration of going over the curbstones on the serrations that actually broke it off finally.
Or perhaps contact in one of those many attempts to restart the race down on the source. Might have loosened it up before he got the vibration from the curve.
Yeah, something.
We're all on Minardi watch the rest of the year to see if the only team that has not scored a point yet this season can do so in the last 3 races. But we'll be back in a moment.